Coming out of college, Jabari Smith Jr. was one of the best shooters in the 2022 NBA draft class, averaging 17 points on elite shooting of 42% from behind the arc. He was hyped to be the #1 pick in a mega top 3, along with Duke sensation Paolo Banchero and the rangy Chet Holmgren. However, things probably haven't sailed as smoothly for Jabari as he would have wanted, as after falling to Houston's 3rd pick, he has been far from the kind of elite shooter and scorer we saw at Auburn. In fact, in Jabari's last 30 games, he shot a miserable 22.7% from 3-point range. So, what's happened? In today's video, I want to break down Jabari's season so far and analyze some film to understand how and why he struggled early on in H-Town offensively and what he and the Rockets can change to help turn things around. Before we start, if you are new here and enjoy the video, be sure to subscribe for more NBA content like this. A like on the video would also go a really long way in supporting the channel's growth, so any support is greatly appreciated. Anyway, with that being said, let's talk about Jabari Smith Jr. First, let's get the stats out the way because I think that's been the biggest criticism when it comes to Jabari overall, that being his supposed lack of production and efficiency compared to the expectations people had for him coming in. Though some people may try to lead you to believe otherwise, Jabari Smith Jr. is not a bad player by any means. However, as a player that was almost a lock to go first overall until the final second, some people have expected to see more from him, especially considering the dominant display we've seen from Banchero in Orlando. However, I think these expectations on Jabari are unfair, and some context is needed to understand why he's had the slow start. Yes, Bari is averaging 12 points and 7 rebounds on, let's face it, poor efficiency, with splits of 38% from the field, 30% from 3, and a respectable 80% from the free throw line, which in fairness is essentially what he shot in college. But what doesn't get talked about is how great Jabari has been from the mid-range, shooting over 40% from between 10 and 16 feet from the rim. Not to make this a comparison between him and Banchero all video long, but Paolo is shooting 38% from the mid-range this season, or between 10 and 16 feet. To me, that says a lot about Jabari's potential to be a great shooter in this league, because once the mid-range game comes along, the 3-point game won't be too far behind it. It's evident that Jabari is still adjusting to the extended range of the 3-point line compared to what it was in college, and with a full off-season under his belt by next season, most likely working on this aspect, I'd expect sizable improvements to come from Jabari pretty soon. We've got to remember that Jabari is still only 19, and progress is not linear in the NBA. His recent struggles are bad, but not something that should label him as a bust. There is evidence he can be a great shooter. He's shown flashes of this in several games this season, including his 21-point performance against Atlanta back in late November, where he shot 5 for 11 from 3, or even his 23-point game against San Antonio back in December, where he went 4 for 7 from 3. However, while the Rockets system is known for not being great at generating looks for shooters like Jabari, there's barely a system at all. I don't think Silas's poor coaching can be at fault too much for Jabari's struggles. So, let's actually jump into some film now and break down why Jabari is struggling and how he can turn things around. Offensively, as I've said, Jabari Smith Jr. has floundered with his efficiency, and there's a few reasons why I believe this has been the case. Firstly, you could argue that Silas's lack of utilization of Jabari as anything more than a spot-up shooter within sets has limited his ceiling, as he doesn't get the opportunity to improve his confidence with more reps, whereas someone like Jalen Green got that benefit. While I do agree with that to some extent, Jabari being a spot-up shooter or pulling up in transition have resulted in his most efficient looks. The way Silas utilizes him has somewhat helped his fit on the floor. He's a good spacer for the most part, but the role has just lowered his production, which I mean, could have expected that anyway with guys like Jalen Green, Sengun, and KPJ already on the team. But compare those spot-up looks to the ones when he tries to create in the flow of the offense, you can see Jabari's struggles come to light. Like here against the Lakers, Jabari fails to create room against his defender and forces himself into a tough turnaround jumper that clanks. Or here, he tries to post up Schroeder, fails to get good position, so he just decides to throw up a bad shot. There are times he's able to use his length to get good looks, like this drive here, or even this mid-range pull-up. Though it misses, it's a good look. But the problem is, those kind of looks he creates off his own dribble tend to result in a miss, and are, in turn, too inefficient for the Rockets to look for regularly. It doesn't help that Jabari is still adjusting to the NBA's three-point range from college, as I mentioned before. You can see here in these clips how he has to really load into his three-point shot, which highlights he's not fully comfortable shooting the long-range shots yet. I guarantee you this won't be a long-term issue, but it does explain his early offensive hiccups, particularly from three-point range. Add into the fact his inconsistent role, and these several times he's had a hot start to the game, but not given the opportunity to build off of it, Jabari's confidence has probably taken a bit of a hit. Silas could get Smith more involved in the offense for sure, like in pick and pop situations, feeding off the gravity that athletic rim attackers like Jalen Green provide. That worked a lot at Auburn, and with solid players like KPJ and Jalen Green, Bari could definitely benefit from that. Once he grows into his frame a bit more and adds some muscle, I think he can definitely be utilized as an inside threat as well. However, I do understand though why Jabari doesn't get these opportunities as often from Silas. That's because he's in this shooting slump. If he continues to struggle managing the NBA's faster pace and the slump doesn't turn around, I don't see his opportunities increasing from Silas anytime soon, because unfortunately, it just doesn't make sense to give him those reps. He's just got to take advantage of his current opportunity, not panic with ball in hand like he sometimes does off the dribble, and make the most of his open looks by knocking him down. That's easier said than done, of course, but with that, his efficiency can improve, and soon to follow that, I imagine his volume would as well. While this doesn't overly relate to the topic of this video, I do want to give credit where it's due. This is not a hit piece on Jabari at all, so I do want to spotlight Jabari's biggest strength, his exceptional defensive skills. In my eyes, he's got potential to be a Defensive Player of the Year caliber player down the track, and at the very least, a multiple-time All-Defensive player. The stats may not completely back this up just yet, especially the impact metrics, but if you consider how horrendous of a defensive team Houston is overall, it shouldn't come as a surprise that he gets let down on that end by his teammates. His averages of a block and half a steal a game are still very good though, especially for a rookie. He's actually second in all rookies this season in total blocks, behind Walker Kessler, who is Utah's #1 rim protector. Smith is not utilized like a rim protecting big regularly for Houston, mainly being a switchable defender who can take players on the post or guard them out on the perimeter one-on-one, which makes that statistic all the more impressive. He's even held Giannis to just 18 points in a matchup earlier this season. Like, this part of Jabari's game is just so exciting to me as a Rockets fan, so even if the offense never reaches an all-star level, which again, you never know, considering he's not even 20 yet, I'm still very confident in his ability to be a big plus for the Rockets when he's on the floor because of his defensive intangibles. Overall though, Jabari's offensive struggles come down to him still adjusting to the NBA's pace and further three-point arc compared to college, as well as perhaps a lack of confidence at the moment. Does this underwhelming play mean he's a bust? Absolutely not. To outright label a young player as that, barely 60 games into their career, is an embarrassing assessment to make. However, there's still clearly a lot for Jabari to work on if he wants to reach the potential we know he has. So as a Rockets fan, I'm hoping he can start to turn things around. There are clear flashes of brilliance though, and with his defensive versatility and physical tools, he can still become a seriously good player in this league. I'm not giving up on Jabari anytime soon, like it or not. If you made it this far though, you must have enjoyed this analysis, so be sure to leave it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I really do appreciate all your support. Be sure to let me know all your thoughts on Jabari Smith Jr.'s rookie season in the comments section. But with that being said, I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.